Today, we're diving deep into love and sexuality. We're going to talk about those powerful and often kind of invisible societal beliefs that shape how we think about our relationships. Okay, let's get into it.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Are there right and wrong ways to love? It's a question society often seems to have a very clear and super rigid answer for. But today, we're going to challenge that.
This quote from our source material just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It suggests we're all living inside this box of condemning beliefs about something that should be so personal and natural. This explainer, it's all about taking that box apart, piece by piece. First up, let's talk about society's rules for love. We're going to put these so-called rules under a microscope and see just how sturdy they really are, or, maybe not so sturdy after all. So where do we even begin to dismantle this box? Well, we start with a really powerful argument from our source, one that creates the first big crack in those societal norms, the idea that sexual orientation is not a choice. On this slide, you can see this really stark contrast. On one side, you've got societal prejudice, which treats sexuality like it's some kind of moral choice that's up for judgment. But on the other side, there's the author's view, which, by the way, science is increasingly backing up, that orientation is innate. It's something you're born with, and as the text says, it's perfect for you. To really let this sink in, this source gives us a little thought experiment. Seriously, take a second and really think about this. If you're heterosexual, could you just decide to change your orientation tomorrow? It feels impossible, right? And that really highlights how absurd it is to ask anyone to change who they fundamentally are. You see, judging someone for their orientation isn't just a difference of opinion. Our source calls it tribal outcasting at its worst level. That's heavy. It's a call to move way past judgment and instead to just embrace and love people for who they are. All right, next up, we're taking a look at history. Because if the science isn't enough to challenge these old beliefs, a quick trip back in time gives us another huge crack in the whole idea of fixed norms. We have this tendency to think that our current rules for relationships are timeless, like they've been this way forever. But as we're about to find out, history tells a very, very different story. Just look at this timeline. It's wild how much things have changed. Back in the Victorian era, super intimate romantic friendships between people of the same sex were totally normal and weren't seen as sexual at all. In fact, the word homosexuality wasn't even a thing until the late 19th century. It just goes to show you that our current norms are just that, current. They're a fashion, not some unshakable fact. And to really drive home just how different the social landscape was, check out this statistic. During that same time period in New York City, there was one prostitute for every 64 men. It's a pretty shocking reminder that the moral rulebook we live by today is anything but permanent. So all that history brings us right back to the present. If the rules for love are always changing, how are people pushing those boundaries and exploring new options today? Our source points to a really fascinating trend happening right now. A lot of older women are finding love and incredible intimacy with other women, sometimes for the very first time. And the text suggests this isn't just about practicalities, like a scarcity of men. It's a real discovery of new emotional depths with partners who are often more understanding of the physical changes that come with age. And this spectrum of choice is wide. It goes beyond just who we love. The text also makes a point to say that for some people, the right path is no sexual relationship at all. They choose to be asexual. And in this framework of acceptance, that's an equally valid and fulfilling choice. It totally dismantles the idea that a romantic partnership is the only way to be happy. Okay, so all of this brings us to the final, and I think the most powerful idea from our source material: the freedom to choose, without being weighed down by all these outdated judgments. If there's one single idea to take away from all of this, it's this quote. It's so simple, but it's also revolutionary. Love isn't something that fits neatly into a box or follows a set of rules. Love is where we find it, period. So how do we actually get there? The reading gives us a pretty clear path. It all starts with the internal work, right? Dropping judgment for ourselves and for other people. Then it's about awareness, about truly getting that we have options beyond what we've been told. The third step is about action, making sure we're coming from a place of love. And finally, it's about shifting our whole perspective,
learning to genuinely be happy for love, wherever and however we see it. It's really a blueprint for a more accepting and honestly a more joyful life. And that leaves us with one last really interesting question to chew on. We've seen that the rules of love aren't timeless truths at all. They're just changing fashions. So if that's true, what's next?